What's up guys, Chris here from Mainely Mesh, doing a nice little comparison review today between your old lacrosse ball, the ECD Mint, and the Pearl by Guardian Lacrosse. Gonna do some juggling. So I've been holding back on this review for a while now. I really wanted to test out these different balls in a variety of different locations, and I didn't think it was just fair to test the ECD Mint on its own because it is a different material, it is a different construction. I wanted to also test it against something that is really achieving that same goal of the softer ball that doesn't grease. So we picked up a few of the Pearl by Guardian Lacrosse. It's really the same exact material as far as I could tell, very similar at least. So I know they both say that they're proprietary, but I think it might be one of those things like fibers in a mesh where they might be slightly different, but overall they're pretty similar consistency. But I'll take you through the differences between these two and a regular ball as best as I can. So here's a regular lacrosse ball. This is just a nice white ball that we've been using on the turf. Very straightforward. What you'll notice about it first when you pick up a regular lacrosse ball is the newer ones are a little bit squishy, but once you get to those hard greasers, they're definitely almost rock hard. And that's one of the big flaws of the current model of lacrosse ball, is that by NOCSI standards, they're only tested immediately after they come out of the factory over in China or Taiwan, wherever they may be made. This one's made in Taiwan. So by the time they're actually shipped over to the United States, that material has hardened enough so that it doesn't pass the current NOCSI standards. So if they tested all the balls back in the States, the majority of them wouldn't be legal, which is kind of weird thinking that we've never really played with a legal lacrosse ball. As far as why balls grease, this is stuff that I'm just kind of regurgitating things you've probably already heard before. A lot of the reason why these balls are cheaper is the overseas balls, that is they're filled with cheap additives that leak out over time. They're not UV resistant, so that grease layer are additives that are thrown into the center of the ball to make it kind of a cheaper overall material. And those additives leak out from the center and cover the ball in a layer of grease, which is why you have those greasers that skip all over the net that none of us like. In order to make a greaseless ball, you have to use an entirely different composite material. So they're essentially just taking out all of those additives, using a different rubber. I don't know what rubber it might be, but the main reason you're seeing this price jump from the $2 a ball that you normally see up to the $5 mark is because they've removed all those cheap additives. And I know a lot of people are kind of trying to call people's bluff and saying they shouldn't be worth $5. It is a ripoff. If with cheap additives made overseas, it costs $2 to sell retail, then it makes a lot of sense that these would be $5 a buck, $5 a ball made in the United States. I think what we might see price-wise as these go on is more companies not really going the retail route, kind of selling direct to consumer that we've seen with companies like Boomba Lacrosse, Pow Lacrosse, and helping to get that cost down. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see another model of this style of ball come out in the next year or two that gets more down in that $3 price range. So it's still definitely going to be more expensive than balls used to be, but I don't think we're going to always have this $5 a ball price that we see right now. I'm going to talk quickly about the overall qualities that you notice when you pick up one of these newer style balls that are really the only two balls that I know of that are going to be legal next year with the new NOCSI standards. First thing that you absolutely feel when you pick it up is that they are squishier. And it was funny because 207 Lacrosse has been using a bunch of these mint balls for a while, and we were playing our men's pickup game, and one of the refs picked it up and he's like, "Your ball isn't legal." And I was like, "No, it's actually very legal. It's the only legal one we have." So you can pick it up really and just tell immediately after picking it up that it is a softer ball. So I've heard reports of a pretty large decrease in the impact force of these balls when it does come in contact with a player's head. I don't have a specific number, and I don't want to put out a specific number, and the reason the companies aren't putting out specific numbers is obviously everybody is getting their lawyers buckled up to prepare for some lawsuits related to concussions and stuff. So they're not going to go ahead and advertise that these are safer, but they are indeed a safer product. And one of the last kind of remaining large causes of concussions in the sport after the rules committee has really kind of gotten rid of those big hits that used to be legal is the ball being shot randomly and hitting you in the head. So having a ball that even if it cut out 10%, 15% of that impact force, that'll make a huge difference in the level of the number of concussions across the game, at least in my opinion. Don't take it as a scientific fact, but something to keep an eye out for. As far as whether or not these balls actually are greaseless, in our experience so far, haven't felt anything sticky. If anything, they come in a little bit slippery, but then once you use it a little bit, get a little bit of dirt on the outer coating, it's as consistent from the start as it is to the finish. I've been using these for probably a month or two now, and they're really solid overall. We've been using them in the rack. We have a whole bucket down there, and they just really perform just as well on day 100 as they do on day 1. That one is kind of something that should absolutely be expected from this new material. The biggest problem with these though, and part of the reason why I wouldn't necessarily recommend them to you who are just shooting around in your backyard or playing on a gravel road or throwing off a brick wall all the time, is they do chip a little bit because of the softer material. So unfortunately I don't have the ECD mint that we beat up before. I don't know where it went. I think somebody might have snagged it when they were in the store, but I do have the pearl. But I can tell you right now that the pearl and the ECD mint both kind of chipped and wore down in the same way. So it's not an East Coast Ice problem or a Guardian problem. It's just one of the new potential problems with this new material. So let me show you that real quick. As you can see here, this was used on a concrete parking lot. Derek and I were passing around for probably an hour or so. So this is really only an hour of hard use. And you can kind of see, let me see if I can, yeah, there we go. You can see there are these ridges, these kind of slices that are developing. And this is something that you're gonna get. Our last ECD mint I used for about 4 days or so on a wooden bounce back, one of the Thompson targets we had, and it had a pretty big chunk out of it. So it's something that I think is just going to be one of those unfortunate side effects of the new material, but we'll have to keep an eye on it for sure. Overall, I don't really think this is going to affect the performance of the ball, especially if you're just practicing in your backyard. If you have a big chunk out of it, then maybe it might spin a little bit, but I think overall it's going to maintain its integrity and not have that greaser effect that it's going to be tough to see which one is more important. You know, how long do these last over a year of hard use on rocks, whatever it may be, versus having a bucket of old balls that you have to constantly shine up. I think overall, especially if you're playing on turf, this ECD mint was played on turf and doesn't have a scratch on it. So if I'm a head coach and I have a turf field or I have a really nice grass field, I would absolutely buy a bucket of mint balls, because I used to exchange our balls probably every week or two, and buying 2 or 3 of those at a $2 price matches up with just buying one of these ECD mint balls. So I think overall, if I'm a coach, I'd probably invest in this. If I'm somebody in the backyard, I might grab 1 or 2 just for kicks and see how they kind of perform, but I wouldn't go ahead and buy a bucket of 36 just to play in the backyard at home, because you might be a little bit disappointed. So I would kind of try out a single or 2 and then go from there. If you're looking to snag one of these, I'm going to include links down below. Right now on our website, we only have the singles for the ECD mint in the white and the yellow version. We don't have any of the larger packs anymore, so you can go ahead and head on over to our friends at Universal Lacrosse if you want to snag those. I'm not sure if they carry the Pearl Ball. I'll do some research, but I'll include a link to their website down below regardless. Thanks so much to these guys. They actually didn't send these over, so this is a true unbiased review. Purchased both of these balls and just wanted to test them out for you guys. So let me know if you guys have any more questions down below. If you want to snag my shirt, I'll include a link for that as well. But thanks so much, guys, and I'll catch you guys next time.